Are you saying that Riley Greene is the best Major League ready prospect this organization has seen since Al Kaline?
He's a better hitter at this stage than Alan Trammell or Lou Whitaker or Kirk Gibson or Lance Parrish. Greene is better.
Let's talk some Tigers. Longtime Detroit News columnist, Tigers writer, baseball writer, everything over there at the News. Tom Mazaway's main man, the great Lynn Henning. Lynn, thanks so much for the time, my friend.
Hi, Ryan. Hi, Maz. Hi, Sam. Good talking with you lads, as always.
Hey, Lynn, he's a player that you have written about a lot, and that's Riley Greene. Talk about, put into perspective, how would you characterize the first two games the Tigers we have seen with Riley Greene in that lineup?
Just an example of his skill set, and why I said all through the spring when they were having all these abysmal problems trying to score a run, if Greene were in the lineup, even as a rookie, he would have been changing the complexion of an awful lot of those games, and a lot of those 2-1, 3-2 deals could have gone the other way. They'd have been more interesting for sure, because not only, as you see, is he got some ability to ball guys, and you will see some balls go into the seats pretty soon, but he gets on base. He knows how to take a walk. This kid is really, really, really good.
And it seemed like, Lynn, it seemed like he raised, and again, it's two games. I don't want to put so much praise on the guy, because there will be times where things don't go well, and he shouldn't wear all that either. But it looked like every single player in that lineup was energized. It just did.
And that's what you're going to get, too, out of Torkelson before long. And he's really on the verge of breaking loose. Because this kid is a good hitter, and his batting eye is pretty sharp too. But it's always so difficult in a rookie season to get it sustained quickly. Greene is the kind of extraordinary talent where you might be able to see him get the rocket fuel a little earlier than you would anticipate, even at his age. I've said it before, guys, and I've said it with credibility that's shared with some people. In the long annals of Tigers bringing up talent, he is right there, probably next to Kaline, over the hitters that we have seen over the last 60 or 70 years in this system. He's a better hitter at this stage than Alan Trammell or Lou Whitaker or Kirk Gibson or Lance Parrish or any of the other guys that we have known through the years. Stanley, Northrup, Horton. Greene is better. And you're going to see that on a sustained basis. I wouldn't be surprised almost out of the chute.
Lynn, I almost feel like I need to hear that once again.
Those names.
Are you saying that Riley Greene is the best Major League ready prospect this organization has seen since Al Kaline?
The best hitter that they have brought up from signing through the farm system and delivered to Detroit's door. Now, Kaline didn't play in the minor leagues because of that bonus baby stuff out of high school. But Greene is the best overall hitter that they've had at this age since Al Kaline. And that doesn't mean he's going to get 3,007 hits or hit 399 home runs. But prepare yourself. This is a kind of player who can be a regular all-star and a lot better. And that is the nature of his talent. That is what you're seeing really in its first glimpses, even over the weekend. I think you can just tell by comportment and by his swings what he can do. And you're going to see him drive the ball and hit it a long way as well.
Now, we had kind of a situation like this last year with a guy named Akil Baddoo who came up here. He was raking, and everybody got real excited. Are we going to fall back into a hope situation, or do you think Riley Greene's got all the tools to just continue this throughout his entire rookie season and into next year?
No, Sam, that they are two completely different athletes with ceilings that, in one case with Akil, is probably limited, but in Riley Greene's realm, no, there's no limitation to what he can do. And right out of their signing at age 18, there is no comparison. This is, you want to say apples and oranges, this is about as extreme a case of apples and oranges as you're going to see. There's a reason that Akil Baddoo came to the Tigers as a Rule 5 player. He's got talent, but he fell through the cracks. But he was never regarded as being the kind of thoroughbred that Riley Greene is. And so I understand the context of the question, but what you won't see out of this guy, Sam, is any immediate ceiling. He has the capacity to get real good, real fast, and get even better in ensuing seasons.
Mr. H, will we see Akil Baddoo up here again, and can we expect him to get back going again?
Yeah, I noticed he just had 3 hits yesterday. I spoke with Ryan Garko, the new scouting director, not the scouting director, but rather the development director for the Tigers, and he knows talent and what it can do. Akil Baddoo is 23 years old. We forget about that. We sometimes think he's 25, 26, somewhere around there. He's 23. And what you saw last year was not an illusion. He does have tools. There's no question about it. But I did that story today on him. And what he missed was about 3 seasons of minor league baseball between Tommy John surgery, COVID, and then getting pushed right up to the Tigers and surviving last year. He's really never had anything much above single A. And so he's sort of going back for refresher courses here. Okay. And of course he got hurt. He had that oblique. And so he's back at this point. He's had a couple of triples this weekend. Again, he had 3 hits yesterday. Don't be shocked if he gets called up pretty soon. And you might see the kind of Akil Baddoo that you saw last year. There would certainly be nothing that would really speak against that, guys, because this is still a talented player who can swing a left-handed bat and probably help them at the very point that he finally coalesces a little bit.
That would be outstanding. Let's go over to Spencer Torkelson. Lynn Henning joins us, longtime Detroit News columnist, one of the best in the biz, and a Tiger historian, Michigan State historian as well. We'll talk about that.
That's what happens to him as well. We get white hair.
That's right. That's right. Took his talents down to Atlanta now, by the way, in his summer years. That's right. Let's go, Torque. A lot of people saying he needs time down in the minors. Now, I personally think that he's already in the minors with this Tigers team. Do you think he has to go down to Toledo, or do you think he guts it out and stays in Detroit? What's his best bet?
It really, frankly, doesn't matter, Tom, because I'll tell you why. His talent is such that this is not going to be a long-term demotion. I mean, remember when Max Scherzer went down?
Yes.
Toledo and figured out a couple of things. He was back in a week, and your Hall of Fame pitcher was percolating. Now, Spencer Torkelson lacked, again, almost like a Baddoo, any minor league ball. He played last year, but that's the extent of it because of COVID 2 seasons ago when he was drafted. So he's still, you might say, getting his minor league ball on the big league field. And so to me, it's a little immaterial whether he goes down to Toledo and maybe really gets into a groove. That would be the idea. But I'm not sure that he's not realizing just as much progress by playing on Comerica's turf.
How much fire should be directed towards Al Avila?
This is such an absolute absurdity of a year, unlike anything I would submit in Tigers history, guys. You lose 4/5 of your rotation, your outfield disappears all in the span of the first few weeks. And so measuring this year really is difficult, except, and this is what I wrote Friday, the one constant in this for me, guys, is they have not developed, and this isn't just under Al Avila, this extends for decades, any real flow of positional help and bats for this Tigers roster. And that's really what fueled the 84 and the 68 World Championships. You had Stanley, Northrop, Freehan, Kaline, Stanley in 68. You had Trammell, Whitaker, Gibson, Parrish, those guys who had all been drafted in early rounds, all brought up to the farm and all arrived at the same time to provide the essential horsepower for that 84 championship. Well, what's been consistent since that, guys? I'll tell you what, they haven't had any similar collections of bats and defensive players come up at the same time to match those core groups that won World Series before. And that is where ultimately the front office is going to have to answer some questions. And as I said Friday, I think Al Avila, we had properly said, and I knew this was going to be a long rebuild. It was a mess that was inherited. But after last year, I thought we said it was on track for all the right reasons. And this year there was an anticipation of some improvement. The offense, though, even though Riley Greene would have made a little difference for sure, still lacks, in my estimation, the kind of dynamic players that you need across the diamond. They don't have it. They have not been drafting those players. They've not been developing those players. Signing them out of Latin America, except for the ones they traded who would have made a huge difference. Willie Adames at shortstop, Eugenio Suarez at third. You're talking all-star left side of the infield. They traded that away, trying to get a world championship for Mike Ilitch. Now, look at it. As I said, it's a cut and paste lineup. They don't have enough help there.
So we were talking to Jim Leland last week, and one of the questions that we asked him was just about the team and stuff like that. And he kept putting the blame more on the players. He's like, listen, Ilitch went out and spent $300 million. Baez comes in, Austin Meadows comes in. These guys are used to hitting home runs, and they're not producing.
Rodriguez isn't there.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I know it's a collective to be this bad, that all sides have to be this bad, but Leland thinks it's more the players' issue than an Avila issue.
Jim's point is appreciated in this context. It is absolutely incomprehensible that Javier Baez, that Candelario, that Scope, and that Grossman all went into the weekend hitting under 200. And that is, to Jim's point, legitimate. Those guys, had they been having even remotely close to mainstream years for guys still in their prime, we wouldn't have been talking about a crisis. But I would also tell you guys that Scope is Scope, and he signed through next year. Robbie Grossman is signed through this year. Candelario is not to be confused, in my estimation, with an all-star. You need all-star talent, and they have not been providing that in any kind of flow or with any kind of annual regularity that you're going to need through a draft, and that has been going on for decades, and that to me really speaks to the fact that they're not only not a playoff team, but why their offense has been so stymied for so long this spring.
Mr. H, I couldn't have agreed with you more when I read your column the other day. They don't draft right. They're drafting these young pitchers in these high rounds. They pass up on all the position players. It takes 9 position players to play this game. They're drafting all these arms high. Look what they got in Skubal. What they drafted in the 9th round out of Seattle? I mean, come on, man. Come on. They had a chance at that shortstop. What was his last name? Meyer? And who gets him? The freaking Red Sox get him because their commissioner lets the Red Sox pick in the top 3 of the draft that year. I mean, I could pull whatever little hair out I have in my head.
Keep in mind, Maz is a Yankees fan.
He knows that.
In a Mets jersey.
But I don't understand. That's where you blame Avila and these scouts. I wanted to watch Moneyball. I think I watched Moneyball 3 times in the last month. Get rid of those. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm wrong. But get rid of the old-time scouts that they have there or something. They got to change. Something has to change.
I agree,
This is a lost ball club.
Well, I've been saying this for a long time, and I couldn't fault necessarily the fact that you took a Verlander 20 years ago who ended up being heart and soul to a lot of long playoff runs and some near world championships, but they haven't been able to deliver the hitters from their own system, and that's important because you get them young and you can keep them for a long time. Look at the teams that we're just talking about with Verlander. It was Carlos Guillen, Magglio Ordonez, Pudge Rodriguez, Miguel Cabrera. Everybody was brought in via trade or free agency or by way of luck because Pudge and Magglio were hurt.
Yep.
And other teams were backing away from them. You've got to provide, in those earlier examples, I would still offer up as evidence A here. You've got to provide from your own system a good, strong framework of up-the-middle guys. They have to hit for power, and they have to get on base. You don't see that collection that's been accrued here. And for that reason, guys, I said they're going to have to probably trade Tarik Skubal at the end of the offseason, assuming he stays healthy and keeps his A status because you can get a boatload for him. And now you've got complementary parts to put with Greene and Torkelson. It's going to take that kind of deal, guys. There is no other way around it.
What good is it? Look what they got for JV. These are men. I mean, these are kids playing with men. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
Well, that's what the question is, right? And Lynn, I don't necessarily disagree with you on that at all. But would you let Al Avila actually be the guy to make those trades? Who did he get for Justin Verlander?
Nothing.
Who did they get for Max Scherzer? They got nothing for Scherzer. They got nothing for Verlander. They get nothing for JD Martinez. They get nothing for these guys.
Well, I'll disagree with you, Ryan. I think that Verlander trade, in fact, was astounding because at the time there was nobody even bidding for him. And it took the owner to tell the then GM, Jeff Luhnow, get Verlander. Well, there were no other bidders. They still got Franklin Perez, who should have been an absolute stallion in that rotation, who'd never been hurt. They got Jake Rogers, and we know he was a pretty good catcher until he had Tommy John, and actually was coming through along the lines expected. And Daz Cameron was by no means a throwaway prospect. He was a first-round draft pick. So, no, when Avila, and I wrote this Friday as well, when he's had a chance to make trades with any degree of leverage, he's made fine trades. This is not, in my estimation, Ryan, a trade thing or a payroll thing. It's a development in draft and sign thing. And when you get that part of the system, conveyor belting talent to Comerica Park, guess what you're going to have? Championship baseball, and not until then.
Hey, Lynn, you mentioned injuries, and I'm going to go a different way here. Have you ever seen anything like we've seen with Tigers pitching? And could that be an organizational developmental issue because all of these guys seemingly have the same injury?
I understand your point, Ryan. I can tell you that this is a product of not only COVID residuals, but also of the lockout. And everybody knew last winter, be careful, because you're going to see guys falling into the ditch left and right across baseball. And it has not been just a Tigers issue. And it's along the lines of the projections, because these guys didn't have enough innings, they didn't have enough spring training. And really in the defense, and I will offer this because I think you got to be fair about it, their pitching depth is the thing that has kept this from being catastrophic.
Without question.
It is immense pitching depth. And I mean, they have called up all of these guys from AA, from AAA, and they've gotten essentially very good performances, even out of kids who've had no business being in Detroit at this stage. Their pitching depth is why I say they're going to have to make a move on a guy like Skubal to get a couple of more real quality blue chip prospects who are about ready to hit the big leagues. Then you marry them with Torkelson and Greene, and now you've got the nucleus for an offense. I think you're going to see a couple of deals next month for relievers. If Soto doesn't screw up like the other night, he's going to be gone. So too will Michael Fulmer. You have the capacity to get a good player or two from that bullpen excess that, frankly, they have right now. And they've got more beneath it. Their pitching is in great shape. It's foundational, and it's the only thing that's kept this season afloat. But you're going to have to trade a guy like Skubal. Remember, you've got Spencer Turnbull coming back next year, too. And people forget about him. He's the guy, had he not had Tommy John, they would have been trading either last July or during the offseason for a pretty good return because he's that valuable of a thoroughbred. But they're going to have to move, in my estimation, guys, Skubal, assuming, again, health and assuming he maintains his sharpness, which should remain intact as good as he is. Then you can get a couple of players that are going to fan out this roster and this lineup and give you a chance to get excited.
Sure, I'm one of the, hi Lynn, I'm one of the technical directors for Woodward. I'm loving this conversation. I'm a big baseball guy. I guess my question to you would be, and I'll take it in a different direction. Do you think that, especially over these last couple of days, I mean, watching any of the other games earlier in the season, after Miggy got his 3,000 hit, Comerica's been dead. So Riley Greene making his debut kind of brought fans into the stadium. Do you think that it is making an impact on the team to have all of these people showing up and actually wanting to see them play? Are they going to play better with a good fan base there rather than an empty stadium that doesn't really care about the team?
Sure. And one begets the other. If you've got some excitement in the new blood that's arriving and it's making a difference in the way the team is performing, as you were alluding to this weekend with Riley Greene, now you get people that are curious. Now, there's a mystique. I want to go see this Riley Greene kid. So he alone is a reason probably you buy a ticket. When Torkelson begins to heat up, he's going to have the same kind of box office appeal. And then it's a matter, again, of getting back to our original theme here of adding a couple of more guys to it. I assume that Javier Baez is going to return to sea level. I believe he will. It's an absolute. Why? Well, you know, Maz, this is a guy that swings the bat pretty good. Now, he's going to chase some pitches, but this is a guy who has a lot of drive and a lot of power, a lot of pop, and a lot of ability to really rack up an inning for you. So he should come back. I think this thing about changing leagues, I'm not sure it's mythology. I think there is some credence to that. I actually talked with the front office about this last week, and they are coming along with that line of thought as well. But they know, and if you've seen him, he's working on it. He actually took those 3 walks that one night after he got booed. It was not a coincidence. So
that's
I
tough
think
to
it's
do.
There. But this year has just been so utterly screwy that nothing has tracked, nothing has followed any conventional scripts. It's unlike anything I've seen in 60 plus years of following this team very closely and about 50 of writing it.
Hey, last thing for you, Lynn, on Michigan State. I know you're a big Michigan State guy. Answer this question for us. Is Tuck really coming?
Yeah. I think the way he's going, Matt Ishbia might have to write another $95 million check because this guy is really, really, really good. And what he's showing, Maz, is a lot of us had said for decades, Michigan State needed to understand its resources. It needed to appreciate with some degree of perspective that it could go and recruit nationally. Well, what's Tucker doing? Every week it's another 4-star from Florida or Tennessee or Georgia or somewhere. And not only is he recruiting, but of course he knows what to do with talent when he gets it on the field. And that's why they needed to lock him up last fall, because he was going to go probably to LSU if he hadn't signed that Michigan State deal. And I think now their big concern has to be the NFL, because the NFL, we all know, needs to diversify in its head coaching offices. Some owner is going to write a very, very handsome check to Mel Tucker to try the NFL. But the way things are going for him at Michigan State right now, I think he and Alan Haller have quite a tandem between the AD's office and the head football coach's sideline. And they are really taking care of their resources up there and appreciating their national status. And that's what you're seeing happen.
The great Lynn Hennig. Sir, can't thank you enough for your time. We certainly appreciate it here on Woodward Sports. We love reading you. We love hearing from you. So thanks so much. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for coming.